Hey, good morning, everyone. I am thrilled to be here with my pal, Neda. That is all from Company Reads, Penguin Random House. We're back again to talk Build Your Dream Network. We're here to talk about, well, what are we going to talk about today, Neda? But first off, before we get into what we're going to talk about, let's talk about what Company Reads is.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. For those of you who may not have joined us last week, that's okay, we'll forgive you. But Company Reads is an initiative that connects organizations with dynamic speakers like Kelly and their award-winning books like Build Your Dream Network. And we really just want to support leaders and teams at every level. Our goal is to help you at your organizations productively discuss the topics that matter in order to spark creativity and engage your employees and connect through the power of books. And every month we host a book club to showcase all the amazing titles and speakers that we represent. This month's book pick, of course, is Build Your Dream Network. And I just want to put a plug out to everyone out there who's watching that we would love to partner with you if you make these decisions at your organization about company-wide reads. We would love to partner with you and bring the book and Kelly to your organization so you can all read it together, get inspired, get empowered, and then actually discuss the book with Kelly herself, with the star. So yeah, just that's my little plug for Company Reads. Reach out to us, companyreads.com, or at our LinkedIn page. We would love to talk to you. And yeah, Kelly, thanks for having me back for week 2.
It's so great. Thank you for the plug. I love working with you. I love working with the Penguin Random House team. And it's also this whole idea that, here we are trying to find ways to engage people. People are zoomed out. We are, fatigued with so much of the digital. And this is where, old school really is kind of awesome, picking up a book and, having that time for sort of your brain, your body to, revive, rejuvenate, but also do it as a team building activity. Yeah. So with that, this week, let's dive into, networks and the network shrinkage. I think that's what we're going to talk about. Let's talk about how our networks the shape of them has changed. Or did you even know that your network had a shape beforehand?
Yeah. I mean, that's something I've been thinking about a lot. Like, I really took for granted the fact that I had a network and that it was just like right there in front of me before the pandemic started, because I would go into work every day and I would just see all these people and I just had this, unfettered FaceTime with everyone. And now that's not really the case anymore. So I think it's something that a lot of us are really rethinking, just like the makeup of our networks and how they've shrunk over the last year. First, I want to say that I want to talk about the concept that you write about in Build Your Dream Network about wide versus narrow networks, because I think it's such a great and succinct way to describe our professional relationships and why they're valuable to us. So I'm hoping you can talk about the difference between wide versus narrow networks and why they're both so important.
Yeah, that was important for me to put that in Build Your Dream Network, and that's right near the beginning, page 41, I think it is. And it was important to put in there because when we think about networking, we always think about the activity. We think about the busy work, like what are we going to do? What are we going to say? How am I going to introduce myself? Rather than thinking about the structure of the relationships and our individual connections and interactions with a variety of different people, and how a variety of sorts of connections can add value, meaning, information, resources to our careers and to our lives. So there's 2 types of network structures, generally speaking. And there is the narrow, deep network, right? So think about close relationships. Think about emotional intensity that you may have because of knowing someone else. Think about people that you've gotten to know over a long time because you're experts in your field, and you have come to know these other experts because you're sharing information, or you keep seeing each other's name come up, or you've collaborated on projects. So that's that narrow deep. So that's often a familial, a kinship network. It is also an expert network. I'm going to pause there and say, Neda, like the things with each of these networks I'm going to talk about, each has strengths, each has weaknesses.
Right.
And you'll probably hear some alarm bells going off with that narrow, deep network, right? You know you've got people who have got your back, who love and adore you, who will come to your aid, who will give you insights or verification or mentorship. But because it's a narrow, deep network, hard to, it's hard to spread your wings and get your ideas and things to move further.
Right.
That's where the other network comes into play. And the other important network in our lives is the broad, shallow network. And this is a network that cuts across industries and sectors and departments and silos and titles, years of experience, backgrounds, education, you sort of that broad range of diversity. It doesn't have the same emotional intensity, but it is an incredibly valuable source of ideas and new ideas and, feedback loops that get you out of a narrow echo chamber. But when it doesn't have the emotional intensity, you may not be getting the same kind of feedback or mentorship that you need that you would get from that narrow, deep network.
Yeah, I can see the value of both and the downsides of both for sure. And I feel like probably we've gotten a lot of our narrow networks in this past year, which is like, it's been difficult for us to spread our wings in that way that you talked about. So I think now that we have an idea of the makeup of what our networks look like, we can get into what we've all sort of experienced this past year. And I think most of the people watching have seen a shrinkage in their networks and in their connections. Can you talk about what that means and how it happens, and what companies can do about it, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, there was a great piece of the New York Times that kind of commented on this shrinkage of these networks. And I think we've all come to realize it, because when we think about relationships and we think about networks, we often think about these times, people, and these times where we've invested a lot of time, but these incidental acquaintance type, the serendipity kind of bumping into someone in a hallway, the people you see every once in a while at a quarterly meeting or a monthly affinity group or whatever that may be, the security guard at a building. I'm thinking of Penguin Random House's offices. I can picture the two awesome security guards who I would see when I would go in and record my podcast. They came to know me, like, hey, it's me again. It's that author showing up. So we've realized during this time period of the, an incredible majority of us working from home, that these incidental relationships aren't just nice to haves, they actually contribute to our work well-being and our work knowledge and how we feel about work. So that, because these incidental relationships, these acquaintance relationships, this broad, narrow network is built because of interaction. We've all experienced this shrinkage. Men, interestingly, have experienced it more than women, because women often rely on that narrow, deep network. Like I said, both have strengths, both have weaknesses. But what are some things you can do about it, which is really the more important? We've all experienced it. We've all woken up to the fact that these relationships, even though they're not, real friends as opposed to Facebook friends, we've realized that they bring joy and meaning to our lives. What can we do? First thing, awareness is always important. So number one, that. Two, think about the ways that you can manufacture that kind of serendipity with your colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you have opted out of attending certain trainings or, optional trainings or affinity group meetings or things like that. Maybe you need to reinsert yourself in those as an opportunity to check in what's happening. Maybe those groups have a Slack channel. Like a lot of companies are using Slack. Why don't you scan the Slack channel to see again what, kind of what's going on. And it's a way to ask questions. Hey, I didn't know that, we had this group. What do you guys do? Use those opportunities to inquire. It may lead you to get involved. It may just be a nice little conversation to find out what your colleagues are up to, which is good too. So kind of use the tools you have, digital tools you have at hand, as ways to pique your curiosity, skulk around, see what's going on, and kind of re-engage that networking muscle that helps you build those acquaintance relationships.
Yeah, all excellent ideas. I'm also thinking of something that my organization, Penguin Random House, recently introduced, was a way for people, just because we have locations across the world, a way for us to all get in touch with each other, because we don't really interface with people in the UK office or the India office, for example. Our company is facilitating those kinds of conversations by pairing us up with employees from across the world, so we can have a quick coffee chat with them and learn what they do, and just kind of have FaceTime with people that we wouldn't usually have it with. And that's another nice way, I think, of kind of getting out of your little box, and how companies can facilitate that, which I think is really important, and I'm sure you would agree.
Right, like I say, company being sort of the networking lubricant, and I love it. Penguin pairs. I got my penguin pair right here. So I love the idea of creating those. So I love the fact that the company would create a structure, but it's also incumbent on an employee to take advantage of that structure and then be comfortable with the fact that you may have one conversation with a colleague in another office, and that's terrific. Or you may say, great, I want to continue to have this relationship with you, and I'm going to find some other ways to stay in touch, or know that I have you as a resource now, that sort of thing. I also thinking, Neda, too, as companies now go into hybrid office situations. There was a really interesting piece recently. Sorry, Alan, I'm going to put you on the floor now.
Bye, Alan.
Bye, Alan. And that's after Sir Alan Lane, who founded Penguin Books, everyone. That is why Alan is Alan. Just, we'll keep that straight right now. So the interesting article on Ford, who is now moved from a situation where, what did I see their stat was? 3% of their workplace population was remote before COVID to 80% afterwards, something crazy. Anyway, a phenomenal number, but now they're going to have a hybrid work situation, and they're going to offer hoteling. So that concept of hoteling, where no one has an assigned office or cubicle, you reserve what you need when you're going to come in. But we're creatures of habit, so chances are we're going to go in and sit in the same desk, or we're going to reach out to the same people and say, are you coming in that day? Let's get desks near each other. This is a great opportunity to expand your network through serendipity. Go crazy. If your office is doing this kind of hoteling idea of reserving a desk, go crazy and book yourself into a different place every time.
Unheard of.
I know. It's like going to the library and sitting in a different cubicle. No, I'm getting you to push you up. But this is a chance to grow and expand your network in new ways and meet new people. The people who will know where to find you because they have been finding you.
Yeah.
What you're lacking right now in your network and your feeling is these other acquaintance relationships. Position yourself to meet those kinds of people. I was thinking of other things. It was another author shared this during COVID. She used to meet at a co-working space, and other writers always knew that they would meet at the same day at that co-working space and all write together. Like, no one would talk, they'd just write. So she moved it online.
Oh, okay.
And so they would all just get on a Zoom and wave and write. And I think that's a really great opportunity too. So, kind of think of these places. There's a clubhouse room, which is also a sort of silent workspace. It's kind of a fun one to step into, where everyone gets in that room, they check each other's profiles out, and everyone works silently. Who says you can't do that within a company for people who may want, all right, who else is around? Like, all right, I can go and check all these other colleagues and profiles out, and we can silently work together or whatever. Why not? Get imaginative and try different things so that you expand and build upon this very critical, broad, shallow network that you need and your company needs.
Got it. Awesome ideas. I'd actually love to take some questions that came in from the audience last week while we still have a little bit of time. There were so many great ones, but one that I feel like is relevant to what we're talking about today is, what is the role of networking in the context of community? And I think it speaks to the idea of, wide versus narrow networks within an organization and how they both serve as a form of community. So I'm wondering what responsibility companies have to enable community for their employees.
Oh, it's absolutely critical, because you can create this cross population, and then a company can benefit from the energy that comes from creating those structures. So let me give you an example, actually pulled from Build Your Dream Network. It's with the venture capital firm First Round, which they realized, in terms of helping the startups they had invested in, that there wasn't enough people power within a venture capital firm, or they would have to create a very overly kind of structured, expensive, kind of workplace to feed all the needs and interests as their portfolio of investments got bigger. So instead, they created tools for the founders to help themselves. And I think, so for companies to sort of look back and say, hey, how can we create structures for our employees to cross-pollinate and exchange ideas, to get the answers they need from each other, rather than having to go up a formal organizational food chain is, it's really critical. So that's, example from Build Your Dream Network in terms of a company doing it very successfully. Creative Mornings has been built on, and that's a global community for the creative, not just creatives, but people involved in the creative community, originally for creatives. And that has grown because of this sense of community. And you've seen something that sparked from, 25 people in a conference room in New York City to, gosh, I'll have to go and check their website. But last time I checked, they probably had 193 global chapters of human activity generating ideas and business and conversation. So I would say it's that whole idea of networking in the context of community and how it can benefit companies. It does. It's really simple.
You want to get down to brass tacks, it really does. And so that's something I think we just keep coming back to, is that networking is a team effort. It's not just something one individual does. We all got to chip in some way to make sure that, the community stays thriving.
Right. I mean, one of the other things I talk about in Build Your Dream Network and mention, even Cisco at one point was trying to map, kind of these networks and the community that were something other than hierarchical and something that followed a formal organization chart, because influence and how ideas spread and how things get done sometimes and often is outside and around formal chains of command. And it's important to understand those. It's important to facilitate those because let's go back to first round, for example. They grew a business exponentially by empowering the community with network tools.
Right. Yeah, I love it. Okay, one other question that came in, which I think, again, we're all struggling with, is how can we network steadily without too much time to spare? You have this quote in Build Your Dream Network that I love, which is, the phrase, "I don't have enough time to network," is the biggest excuse out there. And really what it says is, I don't have time for other people and I won't make the time to invest in myself. And I just, I love that. You always tell it how it is, Kelly. So my question for you is, how can companies reframe networking for their employees so it becomes ingrained in their day-to-day rather than something apart from actual work?
Again, it's understanding that networking is everything. Every time we interact with a colleague, it's how we show up and log on to the computer system every day. It's our profile and how we, the information we share on, a group Slack or, the channel within our expertise at the company. It's the information that we have available if we have an internal, I'm going to say, kind of Facebook. A lot of companies have that sort of an internal, Facebook of who employees are. Does that share what you're involved in so that people can connect with you? It is, where your name appears on a memo. It's how you show up with a camera on or off on a Zoom. It's all of those things. I think managers, and believe that managers within a company should understand that these kind of incidental, these little innocuous work activities are networking activities, and as a way of managing, mentoring, guiding those people they work with. Assign people to do these things.
Right.
Who's going to create the agenda for the next team meeting, because we know in creating agenda, you need to talk to other people to see what needs to go on that agenda, and you need to circulate it in advance of the meeting. It sounds like an administrative chore. That's awesome networking in terms of having a set reason and a focused reason to maybe talk to some people you don't already know. Asking someone in terms of putting together the presentation and who they need to get feedback from on it, or asking them to deliver it. All of those things you may say, oh, but it's building relationships, so it's part of your networking bucket. So that whole idea, as I say, Build Your Dream Network, of rethinking networking is equally critical in the office. And the grain of the idea initially for me on reformulating what networking is started in an office at a time when I was constrained in my ability to get out and network.
Right.
But I could leave a better voicemail. I could send a better email. I could pass along information that I thought would be valuable, because I understood intuitively at that time that not only did I need to do my work, I needed to build relationships. And the old way of thinking about networking is getting out and networking and, steak dinners and ball games and whatever else we thought networking was for lawyers back in 1991. That was just not going to cut it with the work demands that I had that kept me at my desk. So rethink those things. And as a manager, if you're assigning some of these things that to someone may appear as to be a task or below their pay grade, so to speak, this is a great mentoring moment to walk them through the relationship and networking benefits of them taking on this task.
Perfect. Great. That was amazing. Kelly, do you want to talk about what we're going to discuss next week, just so we can give a little teaser to the audience?
We're going to talk about facilitating and encouraging networking at work, some more ideas, and Should we tell them about the bingo cards, or should we make them come back next week?
You can do a little teaser, I think.
Yeah, actually, I've got two fun things, and I think Ned and I will figure out the best way to distribute the bingo cards. There is Build Your Dream Network bingo cards, and I want to say 9 different cards, a whole lot of different ideas on little things that you may not think are networking that I want you to think are networking. If you're a fan of the game Cards Against Humanity, there is a Build Your Dream Network digital version. It's very clean. Do not worry. My Cards Against Career Stagnation for those who are earlier in their networking years and wondering what this thing is. And I'll have a link to where you can find that on the site, All Bad Cards. You can find the official Build Your Dream Network set of, I want to say, fun cards. So you can play a digital card game and, use that as a conversation spark of how you're thinking about networking. And the bingo card's good for team building. So fun things there. So, we really want you to join us again next week, same time.
We might even draw some of the cards ourselves. So
exactly. And, Alan will be with us. The 3 of us will be here. Let's just see, is there anything? There's lots. Oh, love to see this. I have to do this. Hey, Marty Wolf, good to see you today. Thank you for being here. And been the pleasure of co-hosting a lot of Business Builder Show podcasts with Marty, as well as being interviewed by Marty on the podcast several times. Let's just see if there's anything else. I'm going to say I always love this. We always have a thrill. Destiny, wonderful to meet you there in Ghana. Thank you for showing up. And let's see, lots of good mornings. I should have said, and good evenings and good afternoons. So we're covering all time zones again, Neda.
Excellent. We'd love to see it. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Again, just giving another little plug for Company Reads. If you want to check us out and find out how we can help your organization discuss these important topics and, have bond over the power of books, please feel free to visit our website at companyreads.com or check out our LinkedIn page. We're always happy to chat. And yeah, Kelly, I'm thrilled to be back next week with you again to discuss more about networking.
It's always something to talk about, Neda.
Always.
Talk about. All right, everyone. See you next week. Thank you.
Bye.